Hey friends, it's your friendly neighborhood game master Zach Hall here, trying something new. Trying to figure out new but sustainable ways of creating content, and I'm realizing my live stream of consciousness videos that I've been posting for the past few weeks. Don't think they're hitting. I don't think they're what an audience wants to spend an hour plus time with. So I'm going to continue doing my dev diaries, continue working on the Stargate 2D20 game that we're working on for a few weeks. I'm making progress on it. I have another video about it soon. But in the meantime, there's this game I came across from Leyline Press called Salvage Union that I wanted to take a look at. And so I've decided that I'm going to do this live stream both here on YouTube, which is my main channel, but also on Twitch for the first time at twitch.tv/ZachCall_GM. Doing Twitch because it seems like a lot of TTRPG creators exclusively stream on Twitch. And so trying to do some like discoverability stuff, see if there's an audience on Twitch that might be interested in my content. But, you know, there might not, which is perfectly fine. You know, we're trying out new things. So, yeah, well, let me make sure everything seems to be working. Sweet. First time doing this in a while. So, like I said, going into this book, Leyline Press from Salvage Union. You can get it from Leyline Press's web store. I got the digital only bundle, but they do have these products available in physical copies. I am going into this completely blind. I know that it's a mech game. I don't know what the underpinning system is. Is it something specific? Is it based or largely inspired by a different a system I'm going to recognize? So let's just dive in, see what happens. Okay. Oh, nope. Okay. Maybe this looks like maybe a cheat sheet, but it does give us some ideas of a core mechanic. It looks like we're rolling a d20. Looks like we're critting or getting an outstanding success on a 20. We're succeeding on an 11 to 19. We're either getting a success with cost or just a failure at 6 to 10, but we get to pick, which is cool. Failure on a 2 to 5, and then a cascade failure on a 1. So that's cool. And then it looks like we do have some actions. Cool. Like I said, I'm going into this completely blind, so I'm not, I wasn't even sure what the layout was going to look like. But it looks like this is maybe some cheat sheets or kind of like a table of contents question mark. I will admit this font is hard to read, but maybe that's just because I'm staring at it on a computer screen, like maybe a foot away and looking at a whole page instead of kind of zoomed in. Okay, so let's get to, okay, interesting. As far as like layout goes. All right, so here's layout. So we've got the writers, Lines and Lawler. I love that their last names kind of combined into this easy Leyline Press. Super, super cool. Shout out all these folks. Lithuania. That's really, really cool. It says it uses material from the Quest Creators Resource by the Adventure Guild. I don't know what that is, though it is Creative Commons. But I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if that's a reference to the mechanics, like the dice mechanics and that kind of stuff. Okay, so here we got a real, like a actual table of contents. This book is big. like I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. But cool. But I mean, like, there's okay. So we've got a 4-page how to play, page 14, and then it looks like we then spend 200 plus pages on character creation because you're creating a pilot and a mech, which I mean, that's why we're here. Oh, cool! I'm getting my first spam in Twitch chat. Amazing. It's really happening. Now I have to remember how to actually like mod in Twitch. Hilarious. All right, let's keep going. Let's jump into how to play. I'll try to get a sense of character creation. Looks like there's a scenario involved. I mean, the bulk of this book is the mech workshop. You know, you've got 120 pages of creating a mech. So I think that tells you kind of what the focus is on. Though there's still like 70-ish pages on pilot. So the pilot must do stuff that's, you know, important enough. Ooh, very cool art. Okay, so what are some ways self-described? Self-description. This is post-apoc mech tabletop role-playing game. Crew of salvager mech pilots. I'm gonna throw this in question because I'm sure that will be defined. Trying to make ends meet. Dominated by corporations. Okay, so interesting. I mean, it's always good to like, how does the game describe itself? And then we'll kind of match up, does the actual system follow through and fulfill the promise that it makes in the introduction? And some good ideas of what they're focused on. Salvager makes me think like we're not running the best of the best here. We're running and trying to make ends meet. Like, this isn't a I mean, for me, mech is Gundam. I'm not a like huge member of the Gundam fandom by any stretch of the imagination, but it is what I think about when I think of mechs. So we're not really talking Gundam here. This isn't necessarily two armies going against each other. This isn't though it probably maybe it could be like rebellion force fighting against a like oppressive power. This is more normal individuals just trying to survive with oppressive corporations running the world. This isn't. I normally don't like immediately go for this type of story of just like surviving in a world that doesn't want you to. More like my immediate thing is I would want to tell a story of salvagers who are tired of trying to make ends meet in a broken world dominated by corpse, and they are trying to become heroes in some way to change status quo. The setting, the world is scarred. It is set in a post-apocalyptic world similar to Earth at some point in the far-flung future. Okay, so it's Earth, but it's unrecognizable, I guess. No great event that signaled the apocalypse, slow entropy. Red and crumpled. Those living in the world do not realize what beauty came before. Radiation storms, blacked out areas of sky, endless crumbling desert landscape are as normal to them as rain and traffic congestion are to us. Okay, so we are well removed from the world we understand currently to where that is normal and just the accepted. So we then have mechs are commonplace. Okay. Can't spell. We got all different kinds of mechs, variety of applications. Self-sustaining nuclear reactor gives it all the juice it needs. Wheeled and tracked vehicles still exist, but limited due to mechs being awesome. No real aircraft or space travel. Okay. And then corpos dominate the world. Majority of the world lives in corporate arcologies, vast settlements known as arcos for short. Arcologies. I don't recognize that word. Do I have a... Don't have a define little syntax thing in Obsidian, so I'm gonna have to search for it off screen. Arcology. Oh, it's a portmanteau of architecture and ecology, creating architectural design principles for very densely populated and ecologically low impact human habitats. Coined in 1969. As of right now, 2024, these are hypothetical. No large scale has been built. Made mainstream by Gibson and Neuromancer. Yep. Okay, cool. So these are just dense human cities built to minimize ecological impact by humans, but they are obviously owned and probably essentially ruled by what I can only imagine as oppressive corporations. Outside, life in a narco seems like paradise, but it's bleaker. So they are life of bondage tied to corpo, like tied to debt, made to work off in perpetuity. So we're talking, essentially we're talking feudalism, corporate feudalism. Only 1% of those in an arco live existences of gross luxury. Okay, so there's a 1% in this world. That's cool. A little better, so I can actually get a scroll per page. Okay, a different corp runs an individual Arco. They also trade with other corpos. Fragmented player attack at plutocratic oligarchy. Sure. Golden wealth. Spread. Okay. Between themselves, they wage more subtle war, primarily using covert means. Nevertheless, corporations have access to some of the most powerful tech and weapons of war on the planet. They're ruthless in their use. They might find yourself allying or working with these corpos as your needs fit. Never forget that they are the enemy. Sure. So we then have salvage unions. And okay, so they are positioned as like a resistance against the corpos. They've neither resigned themselves to a static slow death in the waste, nor the authoritarian rule of the corpos. Instead, they form their own self-sustaining communities by joining together workers. So the real leftist dream here. Which is great as a leftist. So a myriad of different salvager crews and union crawlers. What is a union crawler? I would imagine crawlers are probably like huge mechs. I'm picturing what are they called from Star Wars? Okay, so some are mammoth quadrupedal titans, sleek tunneling constructions, others still bipedal walking cities. If you are part of a union crawler, you are free and safe in a way most of the rest of the world cannot experience. All resources are shared. Nobody ever has to go without. Okay, cool. So this is less bleak or like survival oriented than I initially thought reading the first page. So we've got essentially self-sustaining rebels in massive mech towns, essentially, where these are these are communist agreed upon communally. Yep. Pay your dues in the form of work and scrap you bring to a salvage union. Salvage your crew. Philosophy as always. From each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. Yeah. Alright, so super political game. Not necessarily like politicking. Like the way Urban Shadows is a political urban fantasy game, but more just the game assumes a certain political structure and assumes the players are on one side of it, which kind of makes you think that is what the folks intended. So then have wasters eke out a life. So we have wastelanders. Static and vulnerable. I guess these are folks outside of both Arcos and Union crawlers. We'll just try for exploration. Remnants of the world are buried deep. Cool. Okay, here we go. Biotitans. Behemoth monstrosities. Amalgamations of biological creatures and machines. Deciding when each has a singular purpose and rudimentary intelligence and cunning, though they are rare, they lurk in the unexplored parts of the world, ready to tear asunder those unfortunate to cross their path. Yet there are some who are brave or foolhardily enough to try, for bio-titan flesh is another valuable form of salvage. Okay. Some say biotitans were created by corpos in a time of old to fight ancient battles. Others say they fell on Earth on Impact Day. Others think them a mutated manifestation of the radiation-scarred world. They are leviathans. Okay. So I'm really digging the machine or the world building they're doing here. This is less I guess I pictured the way that it was introduced. I was pictured your main characters, your PCs were like how the wastelanders are described, but more just we do have civilization outside of the corporation life. That is really interesting. Okay, then what do we have? The meld lurk in unknown places. Ooh, intelligent alien entity. Here we go. Entity made up of a neural network of nanites. Forming a hive mind. Hell yeah. Inert state, merely dust, often indistinguishable from dirt. Much rarer active meld nanites, as valuable as they are dangerous. They can be used to repair pretty much anything. Some say they can be used to craft alien technology. However, within them lies the potential power of the entire meld hive mind and its unknown desires. Very, very cool. There is hope. The world's fallen. There's hope that mankind rebuild. There. Salvagers restore what was. Corpo dominance feels monolithic and oppressive, but the Salvagers are able in their own way to both oppose the Corpo strength and way of life and offer a new alternative. The world is a wasteland, but can be salvaged and rebuilt into something new and beautiful in its own right. You are a Salvager within this world. What stories will they tell you? Okay, first thoughts. Really dig this 3-4 page intro way more than the one-line crew of Salvager mech pilots trying to make ends meet in a broken world dominated by corpse. That like top line, I think, sets up. I don't think it exactly matches then what I read in like overall setting stuff. I guess I'm trying to make ends meet. Doesn't that feel, that feels almost a little disconnected from Salvage Union's like philosophy. Like you shouldn't necessarily need to make ends meet if we're self-sustaining rebels. But at the same time, I wonder, there's probably different wording that would better describe this as like, I don't know. But I almost wonder if they were trying not to introduce their like leftist, socialist, like political leaning, and make it sound, because I mean, to me, as describing the Salvage Union, like yes, like things outside of the Arcos suck. But it seems like the Union crawlers and the salvage unions have figured it out, or at least figured out how to live. Now, like, obviously as a story hook, you can threaten certain resources to threaten the Union. It's just, it gave a different vibe than what I ended up reading. I liked what I read a lot. I'm very interested now and figure like, okay, this is a world I could see myself wanting to tell and being excited to tell a story in. Cool. So we've got some safety tools built into the system. The intent, there are topics presented as part of the world, but the intent isn't to have you, the player, or the mediator revel in them or use them to engage in fantasies the others playing with you find distressing. Authoritarianism and exploitation are presented as abhorrent, not intended to be glorified. This game is not for fascists or anyone who holds any hateful beliefs. It's me snapping. I love me a good anti-fascist leftist tabletop role-playing game. So that we can have some safety protocols. You got boundaries. Out of bounds. So, okay, so this is a rebranded Lines and Veils. If you're familiar with Lines and Veils as a safety tool, out of bounds and off camera are just some different terms for essentially what's going to be Lines and Veils. But that's the one that everybody enjoys using. I use it. I've used it, or I've as a player, other DMs and GMs have used it. So I think it's kind of become the standard practice for people trying to create a safe game space. Stop sign, X sign or an X card from that safety toolkit. Those seem like the two most popular and the ones that people end up combining, using the stop sign or the X card in play as a way to equip players in the mediator, honestly, to declare something kind of unsafe or something they want to skip or avoid or retcon. And then you've got Lines and Veils that generally are determined ahead of time. Okay. Oop. Let's get the generics of how to play. 3 to 6 players, with one being the mediator. So it could be a mediator and 2 players, or at least if they say that, hopefully there's some like mechanic support for literally like a 2-person play group. So there is a mediator advice section, which is cool. Probably won't dig into that too much. Obviously, I love games that include it. It's important. I think it is important for folks or for game developers to include a section and meant for game masters. Probably not necessary for like if I'm doing a review. I hesitate to what I do a review. More like a book report. Does that make sense? A book report without a star rating. Other players take salvager pilots, sometimes referred to as salvagers or pilots. The role of salvagers is to journey out into the wastelands in their jury-rigged mechs in order to find salvage. Salvage is used to keep their walking home base, known as a Union crawler, operating, and the community which lives within it alive in the wastelands. During play, players control both their pilot as well as their mech. At times in the game, they may only be in control of their pilot, and others, they're focused on their mech. The game is designed so that switching between the two is quick and simple. The core game plays out simply as a conversation between yep. The general how do tabletop role-playing games work section that each book does and should include. We don't necessarily need to know. When an outcome is certain, Salvage Union uses just one d20. One d20 system for all of its rolls. The die roll helps everyone around the table have an agreed upon means to resolve and structure a myriad of potential situations. The majority of plays simply continues like this until it reaches a satisfying conclusion designed to be played over many different sessions. Okay. 1d20 system meant for a campaign or at least story arc level of play sessions. So you really just need a d20, your pilot sheet, your mech sheet, your Union crawler sheet, and then notes. Sweet. So first step is to make a pilot for each player, a mech for each player, and then a Union crawler with your group. You start out at tech level 1. Pilots created through this process are intended to be played within the game's campaign mode. Within this mode, your group acts as a band of salvagers seeking scrap within the wastelands to build and grow your Union crawler and protect your community. As you explore, you will find yourself embroiled within the multitude of events, factions, and situations within the wastelands. You can find out more about campaign mode in mediator advice. So we literally have a mode of play called campaign mode, and that is the default. Imagining if they're having to call out that there's a campaign mode, that there must be other modes. Maybe they have like a convention or like a one-shot mode where you less want to play like tech level 1 and more like let's beef these bad boys up and like really see what they can do. I would imagine that that's probably what we're at. The art is really cool. I really dig this art style where it's slightly fuzzy, not completely defined. The mechs all look very cool and lived in and thrown together with really nice long brushstroke. Really like it. Okay. Oh, we got a 2-pager. Okay, so fill out your stats, choose your pilot, and your first. There are 6 core pilot classes. Okay. So you start with 10 hit points, 5 ability points, and 6 inventory slots. There are 6 core pilot classes: engineer, hacker, hauler, salvager, scout, and soldier. Differentiated by different ability trees that they can pick from. Abilities are the unique actions a pilot can make in the game. Your pilot starts with 1 ability of your choice. The salvager is an exception. As a jack of all trades, they can pick from any of the core ability traits, however, that it can never advance beyond them. Very cool. Then choose your equipment. Pick 2 pieces of tech 1 pilot equipment from the list. Put them in your inventory. Choose your call sign, typically a nickname, but can be their actual name. They do have a table that you can pick from, which is very cool. Choose your background. May have been a wastelander, a member of the corpos, a wanderer, or even a born salvager. If a pilot takes an action that aligns with their background, they may re-roll the dice on the action, accepting the second result. It can be used once, and they regain it during downtime. Then choose a motto. They may say this phrase as a free action or reaction at a time during the game that feels appropriate, and another pilot may re-roll the dice, accepting the dice result. Cool. Also includes a table that you can like roll on if you don't want to come up with one on your own. Get a keepsake. If they take an action that aligns with their keepsake or why their keepsake is important to them, you can re-roll the dice, accepting the second. Regain that during downtime, and then pick appearance. Very cool. We're using hit points as an abstraction. Ability to mitigate harm and defend themselves. When you reach 0, you roll on the critical injury table to see what happens. Hit points can be restored with 1 week spent at a tech 1 or 2 med bay during downtime. Minor injuries can be healed at a 3 or 4 med bay. Major injuries have to be healed at a 5 or 6. And H pilot starts with 10. This feels this feels very simple at its core, but has a lot of options that bring welcome customization. Just a like gut feeling I'm getting that, yeah. Yeah, super interesting. I'm getting really excited. It doesn't like we're not dealing with ability scores here. I mean, maybe on a mech at a mech level you are, haven't gotten there yet, but like the pilot's the pilot. Like, do we really need to like break a pilot down, or do we just accept that like everybody's close enough to the same thing that like, and we're all like you're all humans, like just whatever you're, regardless of gender, regardless of like your appearance, everybody's essentially the same when it comes to the abstract hit points. I like both the design philosophy and the mechanics behind it so far. Yep, so we talked about abilities. Your pilot has a number of ability points which can be spent to activate various abilities. Abilities represent a mix of talent, skills, and how much stamina, luck, and fortitude they have left to utilize them. Ability points are fully restored following a week of downtime. So it seems like a week of downtime to basically reset is the default for Salvage Union. Which is, hey, very, I think that speaks to the realism, like a bit of realism for like how tough it is out there to survive. It'd be interesting to see like in an adventure, like how long does an adventure take? What's kind of the expectation for how many encounters before a group of pilots has the chance to spend a week of downtime to reset? Yeah. So then have a pilot as pilot equipment, which includes weapons such as a pistol or rifle, comms unit, first aid. Each piece of equipment takes up a inventory slot. Pilot can carry scrap, but due to its size, it takes up 3 inventory slots. Chassis, system, or module takes up a number of pilot inventory slots equal to 3 times its salvage value. This makes the majority of chassis, systems, or modules impossible for a pilot to carry, which they will need a mech to bury the load. Each pilot starts with 6 inventory slots. Cool. Cool. The art's great. I keep saying it, but it's true. There are 6 core pilot classes. Beyond their abilities, each class has its own narrative archetype and role and play. Hybrid pilot classes allow you to advance your core class into a new class, accessing a gamut of new abilities and class trees. When you choose a hybrid class, you gain access to all the abilities within the hybrid class tree. You may also take abilities from 2 other adjacent trees as noted in their respective entry. Yeah, so here's what I meant by simple at its core with a lot of options. So you start out at one of these base 6. Hacker, engineer, hauler, scout, soldier, salvager. Salvager, it sounds like salvager basically gets access to all of like the entry level basic abilities from any of the core other 5, but never gets the chance to necessarily specialize and then get into one of the hybrid pilot classes. You've even got like an engineer and hauler can become a union rep. Hauler scout become a smuggler. Scout soldier become a ranger. Soldier can, and everyone, like, scout can just become an advanced scout. A hauler can just become an advanced hauler. Or you can, like, yeah, really cool. Cyborg, hacker, soldier hybrid. Fabricator, hacker, engineer. Yeah, very, very cool. Really cool. To play the game, you can train your pilot. Eventually, this lets you advance your abilities. Choose to focus on your core class. Oh, I need to put in. Forgot I'm supposed to be taking notes. 6 core classes, 5 plus smuggler, jack of all trades. Can advance to either you can advance to specialize into a hybrid class. Out of 2 neighboring trees. You get 1 ability during character creation. Abilities must be chosen in consecutive order. So you can't choose a 2nd level ability unless you have the 1st ability in the tree. All pilot classes, except for Salvager, can have up to 10 pilot abilities. Salvager gets a total of 12. Pilot can gain new abilities by training in a pilot bay on your Union crawler during downtime. When your pilot has trained 6 core abilities, they can choose to spend their training points to gain their core class advanced abilities or become one of the hybrid classes, allowing them to choose from the hybrid class ability tree and branch into core classes adjacent. Training in the pilot bay during downtime provides you with 1 training point with which you can spend new abilities. Takes 1 training point to train. Must have the preceding skill to train the next ability. For example, to train the soldier ability overpower, you must take the ability charge first. Advance in hybrid class abilities costs 2 to train. You must have training in 6 core abilities and 3 abilities in the core ability tree linked to your advanced or hybrid class to advance into the class. For example, if you're an engineer and you wish to advance into the fabricator class, you must take 3 abilities in the forging tree. Gotcha. So not only do you just need 6 of your core engineer abilities, you need to put 3 into the tree that then unlocks fabricator. Tight. So like if you're a hauler, you're gonna need to put 3 into leadership before you become a union rep. You need to put 3 into salvaging to become a smuggler. Soldier, if you wanted to become a cyborg, you're gonna have to put some into gladiatorial combat. So cool. You do have to pay to unlearn. Though for each ability which unlearn and the cost to learn the new ability to replace it must be paid for in full. You don't get any you don't get any like refund on spending a training point to forget an ability doesn't include the training point required to also learn a new one to replace it. So if you have to unlearn an ability to add in a new learn, it's going to cost you double or at least 1 extra. Pretty simple sheet, which I love. Again, this is complexity through options, not complex. Like it's simple at the core. I'll take a look at the engineer just to get a sense of what abilities look like and can do, and then I'll kind of jump into mechs. Okay, so here's our abilities. So you have to get 6 out of the 9 core abilities. So you can do mass field maintenance, jury rig, craft improvised equipment from everyday items, or ask questions pertaining to mechanical and engineering topics. So we've got, looks like we've got some kind of mechanics in game for asking the mediator questions. What I don't see from that tree, oh, okay, and then so engineering expertise is the mechanical knowledge tree. This tree is mechanical. I wish they had found a way to put the tree here on this page, but I understand why. Like, that's fine. That was going to be my next question. Engineering expertise. You're able to answer questions pertaining to mechanical and engineering topics. You may ask the mediator 2 questions that cover those areas, and the mediator, must answer truthfully. Use this ability to ask for the full stats of any mech, chassis, system module, or pilot equipment that you can see or interact with as one of those questions. Cool. So it's not necessary for like a Star Trek style technobabble, more like getting information specifically, knowing that the mediator is being honest. Talk shop. You invent a local saying to exchange with the person you're talking to. So like the only thing that overcomes hard luck is hard work. Explain what that means. You're now friendly with this NPC. You can ask them for 3 of the following favors. If you meet the same person again, you may repeat the phrase and they'll offer you a single favor. Cool. So like, it seems like these pilot abilities seem like they can probably run the gamut, but like talk shop is like I am out of my mech, maybe. Not necessarily in the mech. Can do whatever. But like this is a like role playing ability which unlocks things for you, which is very cool. And then the level 3 ability, mech acquisition. Use your intimate knowledge to track down and acquire specific mech parks within wasteland settlements and trading hubs. Use this ability in the field when you're in a settlement within the wastelands or any location that has access to mech parts. Name an item less than, equal to, or 1 level higher than the settlement you're in. The mediator decides the tech level of the settlement. This now becomes available for purchase for an amount of scrap equal to its salvage value of its tech level. It is in the intact condition. Sweet. It's very cool. Then I have the mech tech tree, mass field maintenance. If I cut this wire, mass fielder player. Then I have the forging tree, jury rig, mech Guyver, auto turret. Okay. This table here on page 30 is the first time that I might be taking back my simple at its core. That's a lot of stats for a module. Now, like if I I think modules should have stats and a lot of stats. But I was starting to think this wasn't a like super crunchy, customizable game. I mean, like custom, yes, but like, is it flavor or is it no? There's some real stats behind it. I have the advanced engineer tree. Legendary tree. So if you get all the way to the legendary, tip-top shape, you've learned every inch of your union crawler. Know it better than by your hand. The team of onboard engineers you work with are at peak efficiency. Your union crawler no longer needs to pay upkeep as long as you are on board during downtime and it does not deteriorate. That is legendary. Man, that's crazy. I don't even know the mechanics behind your union crawler upkeep and deterioration rate. I don't need to know the stats. The world itself, as described, like you immediately can know, wow, that is a big deal. A union member that is so good, such a good engineer that the union crawler doesn't pay any upkeep and doesn't deteriorate as long as they're on board, like would make the difference of like surviving or not. And now that I know there's an upkeep and deterioration, I can't say that word. Now that I know that that's a thing with a union crawler, I all of a sudden realize I for sure know what the game is about. The game is about your party going out and getting enough scrap to salvage to pay the upkeep for your union crawler, which is great. And that's just a passive. Cool. Advanced ability of a hacker. Trojan horse, gain control of a mech in range as if it were yours for 10 minutes. Yeah. Pretty cool. Not going to dive in too deep. All that is very cool. Love this. I love this so much. The art's been so great. Oh, I just realized these have a little, they're showing you where on like the, what would you call this? The graph of core classes, showing you where that class is on it. I like that. It's really cool. It looks like the hauler is really like intrapersonal focused, while with some obvious, or at least multiple trees of it are pretty, like have several interactions, which is really cool. Legendary tree hauling all day passive. Any mech that you pilot doubles its structural points and cargo capacity. Doubled after all other modifiers are applied. Oof. Salvager, this is that core class. You can draw from multiple different abilities as suits your playstyle. And you get a max of 12 instead of 10. You can choose abilities from any of the core ability trees from any class. They just can't advance into any hybrid classes. And they don't have any advanced or legendary abilities. Then this is just a list of all the core abilities. Really like that addition. Play a scout if you want abilities that allow you to snipe at your enemies, perform tracking and recon in the waste, and infiltrate protected areas. Super cool. Soldier, play a soldier if you want to play a combat focused character who can blow things up, engage in brutal melee combat, and survive out in the hostile wastes. Oh, a little corpo mech. The cyborg. You've chosen the path of cyborg. Very cool. Oh, okay, so I miss this as well. So a cyborg is a basic, or are we getting into, or no, well, soldier was the last basic. So then cyborg is then the advanced trees. It tells you which ones you need to take from, and then what the advanced class, or the hybrid class, has its own advanced and legendary abilities. Fabricator, ranger. Is that a pet? Oh, it's a pet. Yeah, very cool. Smuggler, union rep, prime representative of your union crawler in any diplomatic mission, able to rub soldiers with corpos or share drinks with union reps from the other union crawlers as you negotiate for the best possible terms. Okay, so this tells me a little bit about the world, that apparently union crawlers do have some kind of diplomatic relationship, or attempt to, with the corpos. I was kind of wondering, how much do corpos allow union walkers into the salvage unions to exist? And I'm sure they feel like they do allow, and the unions themselves will be like, no, you don't allow us. We are here on our own merit. But it's cool to know they aren't like just, they don't ignore each other. They have to figure out ways of living and working together. So here's the tech level 1 pilot equipment you can pick from. It gets, oh. Very cool. As you get to high levels, they've got these like redacted, deauthorized, unsubscribed. Cool. Got a call sign die. Big one. I like it. Background table. Keepsake. Motto. Appearance. AI personality. Wait, AI personality. Is it an assumption that there's an AI of your mech? I missed that part. Great art. Is this a Union Walker? Is this a wasteland settlement? On a clear day in Haven, with the right set of optics, you can see right up to the top of the Arco. But you'd be better to keep your eyes on the ground. That's where the scrap is, and the Arco is just a dream. Interesting. Mech workshop. You start with 20 Tech 1 scrap. You use this scrap to craft your first mech. This is built out of a Tech 1 mech chassis, and any number of Tech 1 systems and modules installed on the mech chassis. Any spare scrap you have after this can be stored in your Union crawler and be used later on in the game. You craft from the blueprints list. Costs an amount of Tech 1 scrap equal to its salvage value. As per normal crafting rules, for example, a mule mech has a salvage value of 7, so it costs 7 Tech 1 scrap to craft. It comes with stats, structure points, heat capacity, energy points, system slots, module slots, salvage value, type, and chassis ability. Put it on your mech sheet. You then craft the systems from the blueprints to install on the mech. Each system costs its salvage value. So if you, example, locomotion system has a salvage value 2, so it costs 2 Tech 1 scrap to craft. Mech can only install as many systems as it has system slots. You then craft modules. Each module costs its salvage value in Tech 1 scrap to craft. So if it's a salvage value of 1, it costs 1. You can only install as many modules as it has module slots. In addition to the systems and modules you've installed, you can also give it a unique quirk. For example, their comms and sensor array could look like rabbit ears, or they might make beeping noises when being operated. Either roll on the quirks table or create one yourself. Love it. Then describe the appearance. Your mech can take on any appearance that you can imagine. Mech chassis is just an example in stock form before you get your hands on it. Then you give your mech a unique pattern name. the marks as your own creation. If you built a mule with zoom optics and a red laser, you might want to call it a bullseye pattern mule. So you come up with a pattern, a name, and then its pattern, and then the blueprint that you used. Really cool. 6 tech levels in the game. Mechs of higher tech levels tend to be more powerful, but they're also more expensive to build, upkeep, and repair. Energy points abstracts away the energy output and efficiency of your mech's reactor. You can spend these points to activate systems modules and chassis abilities that are restored during downtime, or with specialized systems modules. Each chassis has a unique ability specific to its design. Systems are physical pieces of external hardware. Modules are internal systems, such as comms devices, hacking chips, and reactor modifications. Structure points are as HP for the mech. Salvage value is how much scrap you need to repair or create it. Heat capacity. Mech generates heat when you activate systems. Heat capacity represents its ability to operate. If you reach your heat capacity, your reactor will risk overloading with potentially catastrophic results. Heat's dissipated when you shut down your mech for an hour, or by using specialized systems modules. Cargo slot, it's like inventory for your thing, for your mech. Love it. Okay, I'm not going to dive into all this because to me it seems obvious that I still the bits, the stats aren't as complicated as I thought they would be, and it's obvious that the game is still simple at its core with just a lot of options. Okay. I think I'm getting a really good sense of, not really good. But hadn't gotten to the Union crawler yet. But it looks like, you know, it can look like however you want, and then you get a certain amount of stuff to put into it. You can put better stuff as you upgrade it. Everybody, and I like that the Union crawler creation is a party move. Ton of fun. It's effectively a walking settlement. Tech 1 starting Union crawlers about the size of a small village. The largest crawlers are the size of cities. They're incredibly slow and vulnerable, but are able to securely and safely house an entire community of people within their armored shells, including your friends and family, as well as a swath of other workers aboard, from barkeepers to engineers, to medics. Crawlers are communal spaces. No direct hierarchy of command. All resources on the crawler are shared. Everyone contributes what they can and receives what they need. As a salvager, you have an incredibly important role within the crawler, finding scrap within the wastelands to contribute towards the upkeep of the Union crawler. Without this upkeep, a crawler starts to deteriorate. It can begin to lose vital functions or even be destroyed entirely. As a result, you and the other pilots have unilateral control as a group to dictate the direction of the Union crawler in the wastelands, and to use the resources you find in the wastelands. Sweet. Looks like you have some types. You start at level 1, it could get all the way to Mega City. Upkeep. Upgrade costs must be paid once a week. But for simplicity in play, this is resolved during downtime. By default, the upkeep cost is 5 times the tech level of the Union Crawler. The upkeep you pay will also add to your Union Crawler upgrade pool. Gotcha. So you pay once during downtime 5 scrap to upkeep your Hamlet Crawler. You can do this for 6 weeks or have additional scrap. But regardless, your upkeep counts toward this pool of 60 once you hit, or 30, sorry, 6. So you do this for 6 weeks, 6 downtimes. You then get to upgrade. I don't think that upgrade. I wonder, let's look. If you pay the upkeep, the amount of upkeep you spend goes towards your upgrade pool. When your upgrade pool reaches the upgrade value, you can upgrade it. When it's upgraded, you do boost the tech level to the next one and give it all new stats. Many of your bays will now be able to support wider functions based on the new tech level of your Union Crawler. For example, your crafting bay may craft anything of its current tech level or lower. May also spend additional scrap towards your upgrade pool during downtime if you wish to accelerate the process. However, be careful, as upgraded Union Crawlers cost more to upgrade. Cost more upkeep to maintain. Not only is it 5 times the level scrap, or it's 5 times, but you need tech 2 scrap. So it's not 5 times 2, so 10 tech 1 scrap. It is 5 tech 2 scrap. But I guess that's the mediator's job, is to just make the main goal of an adventure per downtime is for the party to be able to find and haul away at least 5 of their Union Crawler's tech level scrap. And I do like that, like, by giving the party a clearly defined goal of providing the upkeep for their crawler. The goal of every adventure before needing to take downtime should be for the mediator to provide the amount of scrap necessary. It really, like, one of the things that is not tough, it's part of what a GM does at a tabletop RPG, is like, okay, what are the goals of the party? And oftentimes that's like, ideally it's collaborative. Sometimes that stems from the players communicating to the GM out of game what they're hoping to accomplish. But sometimes it's also like the GM kind of deciding this is the kind of story that I want to tell, and providing those plot threads and hooks. But in Salvage Union, the goal's simple. It's to provide for your family. Like, that is the default. Providing for your family and the rest of your crawler that you created. Like, there's not a default. It's like you and the party created your crawler. So by the time you even start playing session 1, the party should feel invested, because they just spent time like imagining and creating their Union Crawler. It's really easy to motivate the players, which removes a huge weight off the mediator. Like, why motivate? The players are intrinsically and mechanically motivated very clearly. Really cool. Then if you fail to play the upkeep, you have to roll on the deterioration table. If you take damage, You then have to roll on the table. If it's destroyed, there's a table to figure out what happens. Really cool. Love it. Really, really cool. So here's downtime. Everything you do on your Union crawler's downtime is assumed to be happening at different times, overlapping with one another within a narrative. For the sake of simplicity, follow steps to structure downtime so you don't miss anything crucial. You can go back to any of these steps if you forget anything or want to do another thing within them. In terms of session structure, split these into post-session and pre-session procedures. Post-session is ideally done after a session or in between sessions. Tallying up group scrap, crafting and customizing your mechs and pilots require a degree of referencing the book and rules. This is when you do trade, and all this is technically post-session. I would be running this async in a Discord channel. Maybe like separate Zoom call if necessary, but it doesn't seem necessary. Just do it async. Then pre-session, set up the next session into the wastelands, ideally run prior to the session itself. This is so that players remember the information decisions they made. You use your cantina to find out information about the wider wastelands. Unique NPCs on board may be useful as well to tell you about what's happening in the world. Each pilot may gather a single rumor each, which will be provided by the mediator, and then you prepare. As a group, you choose direction you want your Union crawler to travel in for your next expedition. In addition, you can use your command bay to find out more information about the intended destination and prepare your mechs and pilots for the next foray. At this point, you can also choose the mech you want to take into your next journey into the wastelands. I guess it's assumed that you are creating new mechs as your tech level goes up. So cool. Okay, here we go. So rules are all in the open. We heavily discourage players of the mediator from hiding a die roll or fudging the result. This will feel this spoils the fun of the experience of play and interesting results that emerge from the die roll. You don't have to choose to roll the die if you feel an outcome is certain to go away, or which is certain to go away, which is not to your pilot's benefit or the benefit of a NPC. Okay. I like that. I like that they call it out. I personally, like when I run D&D or Pathfinder, I usually roll behind a screen because there's more rolling, and I think there's some baked in assumptions at my table when I run D&D and Pathfinder that are probably just not present in Salvage Union. Like killing in PC. That would be a hugely dramatic moment that I normally don't do just on a whim. And I mean, it's always up to the dice. But at the same time, I don't like, usually I want to kind of know that might be happening, not have it happen by accident. But if the system, Salvage Union, says, nope, all the rolls are in the open, totally fine. Roll once. Any uncertain situation, whether avoiding a crumbling building, firing a missile, or trying to convince a band of wastelanders to trade salvage with you, is resolved with a single die roll. If, for example, a player rolls a success when their pilot fires their mech's missile pods, the outcome of that roll is all you need to describe the consequences for the entire situation. So there's no damage roll. There's no, it's just the thing they wanted to happen happens or doesn't happen depending on the roll. There isn't like a second thing to determine effect. It all happens based on this core mechanic of the 1d20. Player cannot keep rolling on the same check. You may, in some circumstances, push this die roll to re-roll it. However, it's always still just one die roll to resolve a situation. The capitalized push, I think I missed that somewhere of what exactly a push is. Oh, pushing. Here we go. You always round down. Specific beats general. So if a specific rule contradicts a general rule, specific rule takes precedence. Rulings, not rules. It's intended free form. Puts a lot of control in the hands of the mediator and the players to decide among themselves how scenes should play out. Core mechanic is purposefully flexible to encourage, alongside the wide range of utilities the players have access to within a game. As a result, many situations may come up where it's unclear how the rule should work. In these cases, the mediator and player should work out a ruling that makes sense within the moment. They write these down for future reference, or just simply leave it simply the unique way in which this one situation was resolved. Luck and fate are a significant part of the game, as intended that even when an exact same situation occurs in a game, it could play out wildly differently based on machinations of fortune. Yeah, cool. So you can main push effect for all mechs has access to pushing is re-rolling, straining the mech's reactor to push as much power as possible, direct that power towards whatever the pilot's trying to achieve. After rolling, but before the mediator describes the effects, player pilot can choose to push and re-roll. They have to accept the second result of the die. You can't push again. Pushing is risky as it overheats your reactor, which can result in your mech being forced to shut down in the heat of battle. Damaging systems or modules are being destroyed. When you push, your mech gains 2 heat, and you have to make a heat check. The action or attack roll is always resolved regardless of the result of the heat check. So if you push for an attack that hits, but the heat check actually destroys your mech, the attack still hits and deals damage as normal. You can't push if the 2 heat you gain from pushing would take you over your heat capacity. Cool. You got to make a heat check when you push. You also must make a heat check if your mech reaches the heat's capacity. Roll a d20. If the result is equal to or under your mech's current heat, your reactor overloads. Roll of 20 is always a success, as your heat capacity can be higher than 20. Then you roll on the reactor overload table to find out what happens. Sweet. So here's some functions of how so we got group initiative. Play alternates between each group within an action scene, with one player or NPC within the group taking turns. If it's the player group's turn, the players decide who amongst them acts. If it's an NPC's group's turn, the mediator decides who acts. Someone has already taken a turn in a round that can't take another turn. This continues back and forth until everyone has taken a turn. If there are uneven numbers, multiple turns can be taken back to back until everyone's acted. When a group finds themselves in combat, a mediator can decide who goes first. When in doubt, one of the pilots can roll for a group initiative. What can you do on your turn? You can move and take an action. They may move before or after the action has been taken. They may also take as many free actions as appropriate. There's a movement range on your mech and pilot or whatever. You can move one range band. For example, you can move from medium range to long range or from medium range to close range. Distances are abstracted to range categories. Pilots and mechs use these range categories for their movement. Close range, medium range, long range, far range. You then have 6 actions. Majority of actions are free or turn actions. Turn actions represents a period of time of about a minute. It can be performed during your turn in an action scene. An attack is a turn action, as is activating certain systems, modules, and abilities that are noted in their respective descriptions. Doing something significant during a turn, like trying to force open a steel door, hack a computer terminal, or negotiate a surrender, counts as a turn act. Ultimately, the mediator decides what counts as a turn action or not. You have free actions such as talking or dropping a held item. They don't take up much time. Then have reactions. Many systems, modules, and abilities allow for reactions. Players and NPCs can react to things happening in an action scene even if it's not their turn. You can take as many reactions as you wish. They often have some kind of limit, such as having an energy point cost. Short actions represents a period of time, but so there's turn actions. You have short actions, which take about 10 minutes, typically too long to perform in the middle of an action scene. Long actions typically take an hour, typically for actions that require the group to pause and rest or work on something complicated together. Then have downtime actions that represent about a week. Is my pilot or mech acting? Assume when controlling a mech, only the mech can take actions, and when controlling only a pilot, the pilot takes actions. Imagine you are in the seat of a behemoth and complex mech. All your attention is focused on controlling it, and you're able to do little else. For example, a pilot cannot move and fire within their mech, and then fire their weapon as well. Activating a mech, a pilot in a mech's cockpit can activate it as a turn action. The mech takes that turn booting up, and it will be active at the start of the pilot's next turn. You can also take a turn action to shut down. Majority mechs take one pilot to control, whereas it has to use all their concentration and control. Can't take other actions. To mech. Under normal conditions, embarking or disembarking from a mech takes up a pilot's movement for a turn. They can still act on turn they embark or disembark. Have attacks. Improvised. To make an attack, you choose a target that you can see and the weapon you wish to attack with. Target must be within the same range or closer than the weapon's range. If you're attacking with missile pods and they have a range of long, you can attack any target within close, medium, or long range. Then roll the die using the core mechanic. With a successful hit, you inflict the damage of your weapon, which is subtracted from the target's structure or hit points. You have a critical damage table. You have repairing, pilot damage, critical injury table, injuries. Okay. At this point, I've been live for almost an hour and a half. I've got to stop now. I'm probably going to keep reading through this. I am very interested in this game. This looks really, really cool. I'm going to do some research, see if I can find some actual plays. I'd love to see this in action. But I'm going to use my notes and what I've kind of gathered from reading through what I've read to create a script and eventually do a scripted YouTube kind of book report on Salvage Union. And I'll include some information that maybe I haven't gotten to yet, but I think I've got 90% of what it would take for someone to decide if this game was for them or not. Is this game for me? Yeah, I think this game is for me. I am inspired and think it's very, very cool. Like I said, very simple at the core, adds customization and complication through options, which are self-contained. So you're not having to remember a bunch of math. You just have to pick ahead of time before a session and then just read the description of that thing you've already decided, which I think is a really great way to go about it. Really great way. Shout out Leyline Press. This seems like a really cool game. I'm excited to dig in deeper. Maybe figure out if there's a way to play or run a game of this just to get a feel for it. But this looks really, really cool. Thanks for tuning in to this live stream. If you're finding this after the fact, check out my YouTube. It's youtube.com/ZachHall. The little label for it's always on the screen just above my head. Go check out the VOD for this. Should be under my live tab on my YouTube channel. You can also, depending on how long it's been since this live stream, probably search my channel for my scripted book report on Salvage Union and anything else I'm doing. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys have a good one. Peace out.